On today's episode, 007. Part 2 of our look back at the trip to Bulgaria. In part 1, we covered the first 2 days when we were looking for manufacturing partners. Day 1 it was in Sofia, day 2 was in Ruse. Now we're gonna cover the rest of the week and share some learnings at the end.
Day 3, we headed to Julian's hometown.
Bulgarian, yeah, that was day 3. Bulgarian, we met with my father there, and then he took us to a place.
But before that,
okay,
that's our rental car.
that's the rental car. Was it Toyota?
It's a Toyota, red Toyota.
Shout out to Toyota.
Yeah, this is where Julian picks me up on the way to Blagoevgrad. Beautiful scenery on the way there. I've traveled on that road once or twice, and I have to say, it's really a scenic road. You have lots of mountains around you, and there was already snow on them, so it was really pretty. Yeah, I think so. You can probably see if you zoom in a little bit on the picture. And the weather was amazing, so there were no clouds, really clean skies, and yeah, you can see the mountains.
Better weather, yeah, that day.
Yeah, it's really pretty. It's so inspiring. Really nice one. Beautiful road, actually. It was a new road, right?
Quite new, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
What is that?
It's a radio antenna, I guess, but it's a famous. I mean, it's not famous, but it's just the indication that you're close to Bulgaria once you get to those antennas. I think there's usually 2 of them. I don't know what.
I probably took only one of them in the picture.
How did you not take? Anyways, yeah, that's just entering Bulgaria.
Let's zoom out of that. So where we went after that?
So we met with my father in Bulgarian, and then we went on our way to a small town that I'm quite embarrassed. I don't remember the name of.
Yeah, me neither. We remember the bigger name of the name of the bigger town that's very close by, called Melnik. It's in the same region. So for those people in Bulgaria, they'll probably understand where we are. But it's in the south of the country.
Very famous wine region.
Yes.
A very famous wine region, and my father had a friend who has a manufacturing facility there. Yeah, he had a nice place. I don't know.
Could you describe? Yeah, well, not really. This is picture taken from his backyard. But could you describe the manufacturing facility?
Well, the manufacturing facility was nice because it was the guy got some new funding, so he made a nice manufacturing facility, which was the middle floor, and then in the basement he had a winery.
But the manufacturing facility is his house.
Well, yeah, the second level of his house.
Yes.
So he lives on the 3rd level of his house. Then the second level is the manufacturing facility, which I think had about 20, 25 women working in there. Yeah. And then, so on the ground he had a winery and a kind of a nice, what is it, like a basement winery?
Yeah, it was,
with a bar and a table.
Yeah.
There was some bears on the walls.
It was a wolf. It wasn't a bear.
Okay, it was a wolf. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, we had some wine and some.
By the way, that's a very nice, like a side note. Everyone is so hospitable in Bulgaria when you go and when you meet strangers. The people will take you in like they know you and treat you to food and drinks. It's great. You can go there on business. You probably return like 5 kilos fatter and slightly hangover if you don't know your limits.
Hopefully, you do some business as well. Right? But can we just jump to the next page so we know if we finished? Okay.
Yeah.
So we can go back then because you can maybe go into how the meeting went. It was quite informational as well.
It was a nice meeting. Interesting setting. I remember going into the back room of the manufacturing part of the facility where his office was. And the thing that I got quite surprised was that he was smoking in his office. But what really worried me at the time was we had our samples with us, which are made from synthetic fabrics. So it's basically plastics.
Yeah.
The guy was smoking, holding his cigarette in his mouth. and looking through the
No, it was
samples.
actually in his fingers, so it was closer to the
Oh,
shirt.
it was also in his fingers, yeah. But I assume at one point he put it in his
One.
mouth. But I remember this cigarette butt holding from his hand and the shirt underneath, and I was at the same time like so close to jumping once if I see it falling or parts of the cigarette falling on the shirt because it would just like turn into fire.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it didn't. So
But it
that's
didn't.
quite nice.
Yeah.
But it was actually the first time we see a tailoring manufacturing facility, which was actually nice to see how the process itself goes.
Yeah, I remember we saw the place where they cut the fabric, lots of fabric in one corner. We saw machines and the people working behind the machines. It's quite nice.
He was working at that time. I think he had an order from North Face.
Yeah.
So he was making some North Face jumpers, which he gave us 2 or 3, I think. So we got some for free, and they usually go about €90 in the shop. The production price of that was quite significantly lower than that. So it was a nice insight into the business and how the operations go.
And it was a fun meeting. I mean, the wine was really good.
Yeah.
And by the way, one comment that you made, I really liked when we were leaving. So when you go out of the house, on the one side you see this. On the other side, you see this, so it's between mountains. It's in the mountains, actually. It's already quite high. But you see on both sides mountains and this beautiful sunset. And you mentioned at the time something that people, if you want to have this type of view or a standard of living in the US or in New York, for example, you probably have to be a billionaire to have that. And yeah, some things are very simple.
Yeah. Well, the guy had a nice place. He had his business there. He was living there as well.
Yeah.
Very pretty place, very calm place. Yeah, good arrangement.
It's pretty neat.
Respect.
And yeah, some more views from that same day. Really pretty, really nice. Day 4, with not one of our shirts. With a regular shirt, you see how many wrinkles it has. It's not really sized well, and the color is not really good. But we had an early start again, around 7:30. I think my mother took us that day. We went again to the south of the country, but more to the east, to the region of Plovdiv. The first meeting was in a place in Haskovo, where we met a company where we were, for the second time, we went into a manufacturing facility, and this one was much bigger.
Well, they said it was the most modern in Bulgaria.
Yeah,
that's what
I think they get also some European Union funding for some new machines. And we had again this moment where we went into the meeting, and it turns out we couldn't really do business together. It was obvious almost from the very beginning. Yeah. And then, but we asked, can we do a tour of the facility? And they were quite open and quite nice, and they showed us around. And it was quite impressive. I mean, it was probably, for me at least, the first time I felt, okay, I understand that. I feel a little bit more close to the textiles industry now. It's much different when you see it firsthand than just reading.
Yeah, and they were manufacturing, I think, at that point, some sports.
Yeah, I think they work for a German brand or for German customers.
Yeah.
So they only ship abroad.
So the materials they were working with is quite closer to what we were looking for, but it wasn't. They weren't making any shirts. So
yeah, so it was a family business. That was interesting, and we were in touch with the son of the owner. And when we went there, the owner wasn't present yet. And we started, and it was very funny when he came in. So we've already started about 15-20 minutes, but it was just like soft introductions. And like he was like very tough on his son. Like, why did you start? Why didn't you wait for me?
Why don't you wait for the CEO?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but nice people,
but great people.
They gave. I don't remember if they gave us any contacts. Did we follow up on those? But
they didn't. But they gave us information. That was the nice thing. And I think they liked us. They really admired, especially the owner, because he started 27 years ago, and basically started on his own. Yeah. And I think he liked the entrepreneurial spirit that we brought to the table.
Yeah, interesting.
After that, we moved to Plovdiv, which is the second biggest city in the country. Unfortunately, our footage doesn't again tell a very nice picture about it. But again, the weather was great, and it's really an amazing city. I would definitely recommend it. It has 7 hills across the city, which is one of the highlights, and it's really amazing. It also gets very hot in the summer, and I think the winters are much nicer there.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Oh, you don't know. Okay.
But it's a beautiful city.
Yeah, we were there for one meeting, but again, we were a little bit early, and we went for a little walk and for lunch in this traditional Bulgarian restaurant.
Had a good lunch.
Great food, really nice. Some other nice views from the city center of Plovdiv, and a beautiful sunset from the fountains. This is also very close to the center, one of the hills in the background, and beautiful clear skies. Who did we meet there?
We met with a friend of my mom's. It was a classmate of my mom's, my mother's, and she has a shop. So basically, with all the manufacturing facilities that we have in Bulgaria, whatever's left over, they sell them at a much lower price. So she goes around those places. She has a lot of contacts. She buys those out, and then she has a shop in Plovdiv which sells them. And so the quality-wise, they're really high because it's from the same lines as some expensive brands.
Yeah.
It's the same quality, but there's just some left over. It's like 2 or 3 sizes of each or something. It's pretty random what sizes you get. And she buys those off, and she has a shop where she's selling them. And she said she's quite successful at doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, good opportunity to buy things at a lower price.
Yeah. And she gave us some very nice information. And at that time, I think we were at the point after 3 days or 3.5 days to actually start hearing things repeating each other. So I think that was like the moment that clicked and said, okay, I think we have enough. Perhaps we have to make the decision if we're going to work with one of those guys or wait a little bit and try to find some other people. At that moment, we've already were pretty much clear in our heads what the next step would be. On the next day, on the Friday, we met quickly over coffee and tea for a little debrief. And I think we just basically outlined what we're going to do next.
Yeah, that was the Friday, right?
That was the Friday, yes.
Did we have any meetings on Friday?
No, we didn't.
No?
It was like a free day, and I think that's why we decided we were going to work with a partner in Russia. Because they were the kind of supplier that they're going to do everything for us. They can take care of the whole process, the whole pipeline.
Well, the most important thing is that they actually were working with people creating the materials, so they could reverse engineer what we had and create. So we couldn't find a place that we could buy the fabric from, and there were the only people willing to actually start and create the fabric.
And I think they weren't scared also, and they didn't find this as something that they couldn't do. I think, I mean, they were immediately coming up with suggestions how to improve on that. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. So it was very nice and very encouraging. So what we decided doing at that time was we had in total 4 samples, shirts that we bought that were kind of to what we are looking for to buy. We sent them 2.
We left them too.
We left, yeah. And then, from then on they would reverse engineer them basically and find the right fabric. And right now we are a few days away. I think on Monday production is starting of our samples.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler for a future episode.
What was I going to say? Yeah, they were running, compared to all the other things we saw, all the other people we saw, they were running much bigger operation. Yeah. So it was the first proper partner we could go forward with. Yeah. And we did.
And we've been working with them for the past few months. And it's so far, pretty encouraging.
So far so good,
yeah.
And that's Friday, and we're flying back on Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's it. Basically a short, quite extensive review of our trip back to Bulgaria. The first one when we went there with absolutely no understanding of what the textile industry is, and we came back with a lot of knowledge that after that we were able to talk with a friend of ours, John, who
Shout out.
who is like for years he's been working in this industry and super knowledgeable, and he's a high-level executive in this sector. And it was very nice when I mentioned all of those things and findings with him, to hear from him, okay, you're on the right track. And yeah, that was pretty exciting. And I think at that moment, what followed next was that we said, okay, let's start seriously think about how we're going to market, to who we're going to market, how we're going to name the product. But this is coming up in the next installment of our series.
Yeah, quick. It was we were quite lucky actually to find those guys. It was pretty productive, I would say, the whole meeting, because first we saw what we actually needed, which was the fabric, which was the most important thing, and then we were quite lucky to meet those guys from Rusa that we can continue when we get back. So it was actually a very successful trip looking at it now.
Very successful, and I think it over delivered in terms of expectations.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Very lucky to find those guys.
Yeah. Another thing, we have a few vlogs. I recorded 2 or 3 short vlogs after the first 2 days, but we're gonna publish those separately, probably under the label Lost Footage. You're definitely gonna see how much our video production has improved. Even though it's not close to what it should be, but it's yeah. But it could be much worse.
But it was much worse. It's interesting to see.
Yeah, but we're having a lot of fun looking back at all these things. Yeah. If you like this, we're gonna do another retrospective look back on our trip. We did on our second trip. We did that a month ago, exactly, actually.
February, right?
Yeah, last February, and. Yeah, it was also very productive and a good one. But it was a more focused on more administrative stuff and meeting with our supplier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being with us and sticking throughout this long retrospective.
Yeah, it was quite a long one. The longest yet.
From me and from Julian, we wish you a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice work.